Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GitGUDRacing.com, where I'm offering the most accessible coaching sessions on the market.
Now for the track guide. For turn 1, I use as a reference for braking this blue cone on the right side, since my vision is already looking at the right corner. The moment I'm very close to this blue cone, I'm applying the brakes, so I'm braking before the cone. So right now I'm building up the brakes and braking, and I peak my brakes almost at the end of the blue cone. So it's a heavy braking zone initially. You want to go quickly and hard on the brakes, but then you will have to drop it quickly because you want to switch into the trail braking phase quite early, since you have to turn in. So everything happens quickly, and what I'm aiming for is to cut this curb at this dirt. You see there's a bit of dirt at the grass around here. I'm looking here, I'm apexing at this portion of the curb, going back on throttle, building it up, and you can get a bit of oversteer while being on throttle in this moment. You should modulate the throttle pedal, don't make the car oversteer, since you're gonna build up tire temps and it will affect the next corners. In second gear, upshifting to third, and right now I'm looking at this green part, the green part on the outside, since this will be my turning point. I'm looking at the green, but I'm turning slightly before it, and it's just a dab in the brake to make the front tires point, and then you're gonna apply some steering angle, and I'm aiming to cut this curb almost to the grass. In this lap I was a bit earlier on throttle, and notice in my throttle shape that I had this build up of throttle. This is not ideal, this was a mistake. So what you should aim for here on the throttle is the moment that you're gonna be on throttle, you will try to minimize these corrections. You will have some corrections because the car is a bit loose in the rear, so you will have to modulate the way that you're gonna apply the throttle. But if the modulation takes a lot of time, like it took here, so a lot of time being on and off throttle and modulating the pressure, it's not the best approach. The best approach is to hit the brakes, make the car point, then turn, and then smoothly on the throttle pedal. So probably I lost here around the 10th, so you can see here I'm losing. But moving on into the next corner, it's important to go to 5th gear here. So don't stay in 4th, go to 5th, even though the moment you're gonna be in 5th, you're gonna be applying the brakes. And this can be a good reference for braking. Like, I don't use these boards here. I'm braking in between 100 and 50, but what I'm doing is I'm paying attention to my gear. I know that as soon as I'm gonna go to 5th gear, there's just a split second that I will still be on throttle, and then I'm gonna applying the brakes. So my reference for braking is the moment that I'm going to 5th gear, slightly after it, applying the brakes, quite heavy braking zone, and I'm using a U-shaped line into this corner, so I don't hug this curb. If you see it, I'm treating it more like a double apex corner. So what I'm doing is I'm shooting the car deep into the corner right here. I'm braking late, I'm holding the brakes, so notice that I'm trying to slow down the car as much as possible. I'm apexing around this dirt on the grass right here in the curb, and now my car will go wider, and then while on throttle I'm apexing back again at the curb. So for me it's a double apex corner, and I feel like this approach on average should be a bit faster than just following the curb, because the other way around is to brake a bit earlier and just hug this curb, like follow closely the curb, cut it around the point in which the sand meet the grass, so you will cut it here and then continuing to following it. Pushing the car more deep is gonna be a bit faster, and notice that the moment that I'm going on throttle, so at this point, it's very important, at this point you will have to modulate it, because this is a long sweeping right-hander, the rear is gonna snap. So you can't go like 0-100 throttle and maintain it, even though that would be the goal. You will have to modulate it around 60%. So right now modulating and then back on 100. And another trick here is to upshift quickly to third. If you're gonna upshift a bit earlier to third gear, you're gonna correct that snapping of the rear tires. So what I'm doing here, I'm using third gear a bit sooner, so the rev limiter is not blinking, and I'm upshifting to third to stabilize the rear tires. It's gonna be super important to get a good exit. You see it's a long straight up until the next corner, but I use as a reference for braking here the 100 meter board. Slightly past it I'm applying the brakes, so the moment that 100 disappears I'm applying the brakes. I brake super hard initially and I'm downshifting to first gear, because it's super important here to follow this curb. You don't want to track out wide, so your line should be almost in the center, more to the right on the exit. And notice the transition between braking and the throttle. So you're gonna brake hard, then you're gonna drop it, so you're gonna trail brake all the way that you're following the curb. That's gonna be a trail brake, and the moment that you feel the car won't get pushed too far on the left side, you're gonna apply the throttle. Another tip here is to upshift to second quicker than you think, because the rear is gonna be snappy. It's the same discussion like two corners before. Upshift to second gear before the rev limiter hits, so you will stabilize the rear tires, and then position the car to the far edge on the right side. I'm using this dirt near the grass as a reference for turning and braking, and it's exactly this. You're gonna brake and turn at the same time, hitting this curb, and then the sooner I meet this curb I'm gonna be back on throttle. You will have to modulate a bit the throttle pedal so that you don't get wide. For the next corner, use this curb, this exit curb here, to position the right tires, and the moment that you're gonna be stepping on it, apply some brakes and turn. So it's quite similar to the previous corner: brake, turn, then be back on throttle using all this curb. And this corner is very similar to the one that we took in first gear. Again, you don't want your car to track out to the right side, you want the car to be hugging the left-hander. So I'm braking slightly past the 50 meter board, applying the brakes and going to first gear way sooner than you think, so you will have this extra rotation while still trail braking, and then building up the throttle. Again, upshifting to second sooner than you think, so that you can have the rears in check. And now I use as a reference for braking and turning the moment that I'm almost close to this white line. You see here, this is my reference for turning and braking, because I want to turn while opening up this corner as much as possible. But if I'm gonna wait a bit more, it's gonna be too late. So this is the best reference that you can use. The moment that you position the car far to the left side, the moment that you're gonna apply the brakes and turn. Quite a long corner, longer than you think. Look, I have my arms almost crossed right now. I'm kind of like this, so you have to turn a lot. I think you can make up for this rotation by braking a bit harder initially, and you will steer a bit less. I didn't try it, but maybe it's gonna be faster. So in my case, you see I'm trail braking in the lower 5% and turning a lot. Maybe it's gonna be better to brake like 15% and then turn a bit less, like almost this, without crossing the arms. probably it's gonna be better. So you will have to try it. Building up the throttle, and for the next corner I do a small mistake here. You want to turn the moment that you're gonna see the curb. The moment that the curb appears in your vision, you're gonna start turning, but you have to do a lift. And this lift for me was done a bit too late, and right now I'm under steering. You see I'm using a bit too much steering angle, but the idea is still to have a lift in between taking this corner, positioning back the car, and the moment that the car is gonna be straight, you're gonna apply the brakes. So this is my reference for braking, or you can use this dirt part on the left side. You see, when you see just like this, you're gonna apply the brakes, hold it, it's a bit of trailing, and you want to go over this curb, so you want to cut it so you can gain a bit of distance while being on throttle. And it's important to be like 100% throttle and don't have to modulate too much. You see I did here a small lift. Ideally you will do it without a lift, since this is a decent straight and the exit will matter. It's also a great overtaking opportunity. So in short, that was a track guide for Okayama. I wish you a great week ahead, and I'll see you onto the next one.